Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you on a Monday afternoon, September 9th, my daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Sophie, out there. As always, I'm joined by Andrew Combo Sal to discuss everything in the latest and the greatest in the NBA. I'm not sure there's a lot to talk about in terms of news, but we're going to figure that out, and Combo is here to help me with that. So what's happening, my man?
All is well. I feel like today will be a great show.
It will be, as always. And you know what? I even got so excited I forgot to tweet this out that we're having a show. So
I actually tweeted it, but
you were able to, without me, whatever, tagging you.
Oh yeah, let's do that again. It doesn't matter. Tweets are unlimited, right?
All right, here we go. Live with you're gonna watch me type in combo. This is riveting. Here we go, and post. There it is. All right,
made for TV. Made for TV.
It absolutely is. Actually, what isn't made for TV these days? But we're down to the end of what would be arguably the worst NBA offseason we've had. And when I say that, I mean just pretty much uneventful, if you will. Not a lot went down. We got the PG trade, we got Mikal Bridges, and that was about it.
The OKC stuff was interesting, right? But that was a little bit earlier.
True.
Laurie Marketing extended. I think there's some other things we're missing, though.
Jamal Murray got extended recently.
Jamal Murray.
It's interesting to put all their eggs in that basket. I mean, Murray didn't look amazing in the Olympics to me. Did he look like that to you?
No, he struggled in the Olympics.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to do a video. Like, they won't let me use the damn footage of the Olympics on YouTube. At least I can check. Maybe now they will after it's a few weeks afterwards. But, there's an interesting video to be made about, why Giannis can't lead his Greek team beyond where they got. And then Jamal Murray didn't play as well either to help them. They needed it, even though they got far, but they could have used him as his normal self. Or what is his normal self these days? What do you think?
I think he looked a little bit out of shape, which is kind of weird coming from him. You'd figure he'd be in shape coming off a playoff run. Well, they did lose a little bit earlier than they did the year before since they won the championship the year before. But yeah, he didn't look in the best of shape. The one thing about Giannis is he's always in great shape. So that wasn't the part that was missing from him and Team Greece.
Right. And I think with Jamal Murray, they did get knocked out earlier. He could have just been like, all right, I'm done. I'm getting away from basketball for a little while and got out of sync. And also playing alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't necessarily the easiest adjustment either from a player like Jamal Murray. So that could have been a thing where they just couldn't quite figure out the chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Josh Giddey's not there anymore, because those two don't fit very well together, because Josh Giddey's the guy who needs the basketball. And obviously, Jamal Murray needs the basketball, but he does such a great job of playing off the basketball when he's playing with Jokic.
Absolutely. But it's different when, like, the Canadian team, like, their weak spot was center. So they didn't have, like, a big man, high post action that they were going to be able to run off of that Murray does so well.
You think Zach Edey could have helped them?
Yeah, I mean, look who they had. I mean, they had Powell and they had Ken Birch, right? Whenever they were in, it was just those are the two weak spots. Clearly, they needed better play from that position, almost to the point where they maybe could have gone small, really small. But I'm trying to think who else they had to go to play the center position. I think that they need to upgrade that, and Edey certainly would have given them a different look. I don't know. How do you think Edey's going to do in the NBA?
I'm probably not as high on him as a lot of others. I don't know how. So, like, with a player like him, it's almost as if he has to be so dominant that he defies the fit and he swings the cycle back towards the dominant big man, right? Like, if Shaq came along now, it doesn't matter what the modern NBA era is. You know, is Zach Edey that type of guy? I don't really think so. I don't know if you're going to revolve offense around Zach Edey to try and get him post touches, and if that's best in the modern NBA.
Right. And you're not going to see him like spread the floor, really. He's not going to put the ball on the ground. So, yeah, it might not be the best fit for him in the NBA.
Well, maybe he could be like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a little bit better version of Boban, even though Boban, like, he gets buckets when he plays. But I feel like he might be a little more playable than Boban, maybe. But I don't know if he'll be a star.
Right. And it's like Memphis is in a weird position now anyway with their roster. It's unclear to me, how that's going to work. But then again, in theory, I don't know. Let's talk about Memphis for a second out of the blue. I didn't even prepare this, but are they in a mode of wanting to compete?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're going to finally be healthy.
Really, it just matters if Ja Morant's available. Then you have a chance.
Right.
I mean,
Now,
he's a generational talent.
He has nothing else on his resume that was going to cost him games from suspension or anything, right?
Oh no, I think he's good to go.
Good to go.
Yeah.
So, so that's certainly there. But then they're the team has gotten remade recently too. So it's interesting to see, so they'll probably be able to give Edie a lot of minutes. But again, does the offense, like you said, change its philosophy from a modern game to something where that would be him dominating? So do you think that he could get down there low, command that pass, and get down there and score easily over NBA defenders?
I don't know if that's how you want to play offense these days. Maybe he could get like points around the rim where he just grabs a rebound, puts it right back up. Hopefully he could get up and down the court quick enough. Hopefully he could get some buckets where he's get like the dirty buckets, right? Like just hustle and all that stuff. Yeah, I just don't see you making him a main option in today's league.
Right. I agree. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's got to be a version of the Matrix where yes, he can really help, but as a starter, like I don't know. I don't know. I would love to think that at some point, like what you said, Shaq comes, then great. Shaq would definitely dominate like he did back then, and you'd get him down the ball down low,
right,
and drawing fouls and all those things. But this guy definitely doesn't feel that way. He's not like that.
And like we should never compare it to Shaq, but also Shaq got up and down the court really quick, especially in the beginning. Like that wasn't an issue for him. So
and then once you establish yourself, then you're a star, you're going to get those touches. And then
I bet you, when Shaq was young, he probably would have been a switchable defender. Like he was really athletic. Really athletic.
Spin move off the dribble was like
right. If you have that type of dexterity on offense, I'm sure he could have figured it out to switch out on defense. Yeah.
And well, then you threw him in triangle offense to the Lakers, and that like put fuel to the fire. And suddenly they were getting like cross screens for him and like flashing posts and hitting him, and he could just turn and go. The problem with that was it became so easy for him to score that they just had to hammer him as much as they could, put him on the foul line, and that changed the game too, because then Shaq became just a bruiser where he was like, I'm going to have to inflict the pain before they hit me. And I don't blame him for that in that mindset either, but it kind of turned into a much more, it didn't have that same freedom of movement that I thought we had seen in the beginning of Shaq's career, certainly.
Yeah, he definitely had phases of his career. I mean, he had that Orlando Magic phase, which was probably the most athletic and the most fast, and that he was in his prime during those Lakers years where he still had the athleticism, but he really learned the NBA game, and he was just the dominant player. Who was Batman and who was Robin? That's a good question. For
Shaq and Kobe?
Yeah. There probably wasn't one, right? It was probably just...
It was Shaq. Shaq was the guy they needed to run it through. That was what made them so...
So you think he was Batman? And
it didn't mean that... It doesn't even mean that Shaq had to shoot it, but certainly funneling it through him as the first option was the best way to make that team work. Most any team at that level of his career. So, that was frustrating to watch because Kobe didn't believe that and wouldn't accept that, but it was true.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what made Kobe great. He felt he was the guy that needed the basketball, and that should be the first option, right? I mean, he had that mentality.
Kobe, the best, worst shot maker of all time.
Oh, easily. Who's up there with those? Jamal Crawford. He makes some tough, bad shots.
Yeah, and he takes them, but I don't think he gets in that same rally. He never had that same. He didn't have the Kobe role, right?
No, he wasn't as good of a player, obviously.
Right. I mean, Brandon Jeffries had that role. Wait, Brandon Jeffries, is that his name?
No, Jennings.
Brandon Jennings, yes, had that role. He would take any shot he could find, and every once in a while they go in, but that wasn't quite the Kobe role. But as a triangle offense coach, it was always a little bit of the frustration of watching Kobe just sort of not want to be part of the 5-man grouping of, and moving 5 fingers on a hand. And so, could he do it? Yes. But it was just, there was more there that I thought he could have mined.
Okay.
And it makes your teammates better, all that stuff. But anyhow, let's talk about the Celtics for a second because they're
what were you thinking? I saw they were on the thumbnail. So what's on your mind?
I typed, I wanted to see Jason Tatum upset. I needed that. That was the picture. So the context also is they come off a championship. Tatum doesn't even get a chance to, didn't play in a few of those games in the Olympics, which is an interesting, we talked about a little bit before, but he didn't win the MVP of the finals. And I suspect that might be bothersome to him. I was kind of looking up some things, and I found a couple of random articles of when Luka first got on the scene. It was after Tatum's, beginning of his ascent. And there was some article, or maybe it was Jeff T or somebody was saying in a pod or something that like Tatum was really concerned about Luka's rise as if he was going to be eclipsed pretty quickly, which I think he has been, right? I think it's safe to say that Luka's better than Tatum.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a few players in the NBA better than Tatum. I mean, there's probably like six maybe.
Okay.
5 or 6, yeah.
And it, and obviously Tatum's goal was to be up there at the top. And I just don't think, I think we've seen his peak, right? I think he is what he is.
You never know. I mean, I think a great player could find ways to get better, but he's probably close to it. He's in his upper 20s already.
Yeah, let me just check. Yeah,
I mean, the shooting is something that could always get better, and it's been a struggle lately. So,
well, let's look. He had the not the highest of his career, but he shot 37.6% from three, which is above average or right around a little above average. He shot 47% from the field, which looks like to me a just about a career high. He was a little bit higher his rookie year, but so that's all shooting wise, and then free throw percentage was right around his average. So that all is good. We can go to the playoff numbers in a second to see the drop, but. The dude averaged, we went from 30 the year before to 26.9 this past year. Better team, more weapons, right? Makes total sense. Mm-hmm. But again, I feel like, he is now going to be 26 this year in his 8th season. So I don't know if you're asking me if a 28-year-old 8th season player, 26-year-old guy in his 8th season, I think that's it. I think we've seen his ceiling.
Michael Jordan got better after 27, 26, right? I'm not saying Jason Tatum is Michael Jordan. I'm just saying, I think, forget about all those guys. I got better from 32 to 27. It doesn't matter who I was playing against. I mean, I was playing overseas, but I felt like I was a better basketball player at 32 than I was at 27.
Okay. Better basketball player doesn't necessarily mean more output, right? It could just be more efficiency or
what does output mean?
Like your box score or whatever.
No, I mean, I think box score is one thing, but I mean, a lot of the box score stuff at that point is just your situation on a team. Like if we put Jason Tatum on the Wizards, he'll average 34 probably.
Well, so let's talk about the things that he would need to improve. If I were, in charge of his improvement over this offseason, I think the number one thing I would probably say is ball handling.
Yeah. And efficiency as a shooter, but keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So the thing that makes me frustrated watching him is a lot of times in those ISOs, he fumbles the ball. It might not even be a turnover. He might kind of quickly run and get it back, but it's still not clean enough for me at that level doing his role. And I don't know why it hasn't gotten cleaned up better. Perhaps there are little incremental stuff, and please let us know if you feel like you don't agree with me on this one, but
I'm surprised. Sorry to cut you off, Coach. I'm surprised you don't think a player can get better after 27. You usually have a growth mindset.
I do think that, but I do think that at some point, especially in the NBA, you don't see much improvement. I guess I probably was feeling more about box score numbers if you want to go there. Like, I don't think you might see much more than what he did in the last year or so, which again is how much better are you going to get when you're averaging 30 or 28 a game? Like, there isn't much more to go from that anyway, right?
That is true. Does he average 30 though? I don't know about that.
He had 30 two seasons ago, if I remember this correctly.
Oh wow, okay.
He averaged 30.1 in 22-23. And didn't even shoot that well from 3-point land, and he shot a lot of them. So he made it up on the 2-pointers, shooting a career high there. Which, remember, his whole thing earlier in his career was he wouldn't shoot threes. He kept pulling up for long-range twos, and because he couldn't get to the basket. That was the thing. Has he improved in that area?
Getting to the basket? Not really. I don't think.
Oh, okay. I was going to say maybe he got better at it. I think he got better at it. You kind of have to get back to where, remember, it was almost like he was petrified of it, and he would just pull from 16 or 18. Even he had the lane. Remember, he'd have the lane, and he'd just pull up before he even explored it.
A big difference between like Tatum and Anthony Edwards, or let's say SGA, it's SGA and Anthony Edwards have way more blow-by ability. And it's not only athleticism and speed. Anthony Edwards is big-time athleticism and speed, but they just have a knack to get by their man that Jason Tatum doesn't really have.
For sure. I agree. I mean, yeah, and that could be improved too. There's more ways of
100%.
A bit more explosion. And by the way, if you hear my air conditioning, forgive me, but it's 100 degrees, and I'm not going to sit here without it.
Is it 100 degrees on the West Coast?
Oh, it's been brutal, and it's going to get worse for the next couple of days, and then it'll finally break. But yeah, it's been. I was in the Valley on Thursday, maybe, and it was 118 or 117. crazy. By the way, if you want to ask a question, the best way to do that is over on the YouTube side with the super chat. We'll put your question on the screen, and we'll give you some love, and it'll really help us keep the show going. But as we might even peruse some of the comments going on right now, just to kind of see what's going on. Because a pimp named Slickback, who is a friend of the Breakdown, mentioned ball handling, playmaking, and efficiency. So, I mean, I don't know. The efficiency is kind of getting close to there, but the ball handling is one thing that needs to
not in the Olympics or in this. Well, he didn't play some games or the playoffs.
Right. Let me look at the playoffs. I'm already forgetting now.
Yeah.
Playoffs, he shot 42.7% from the field overall, 28 from three. Right. He was clanging them. I forgot about that. And his effective field goal percentage is way below 50. So, yeah, that was not great. And another reason why he really, didn't get the MVP of the finals. And okay, so for 5 games he didn't shoot great, but overall for the season he did. I think this finishing at the rim, we talked about this before, where his eyes are down when he drives a lot of the time, and then he tries to pull up and finish, and all of a sudden he's looking up and he didn't realize that there's help there. He didn't read the floor well, and he can't finish that way. There are myriad ways of not being good at finishing, but when the eyes down is the reason, that's also a little troubling to me, because that's something that needed to be fixed a long time ago. It isn't, which makes me feel like maybe there won't be any improvement in that area, and then that's going to be part of the ceiling that he's got.
Yeah, you just got to dribble your basketball wherever you go, to the store, around the house.
To me, it's almost like, especially when you get into the lane like that, it's even less of like the ball handling, dribbling with down the street.
I think it's a lot of that, like just your ability to have comfort with the basketball, like it's an extension of your hand.
But I think it could very well be more of a nervous system thing, where you got to kind of train the nervous system to stop reverting back to like the reaction of like, I have to be down because I'm scared of the ball being lost or something like that. Jaylen Brown, by the way, had some in a version, a left-handed dribbling thing, right? A little bit of the yips as well, that he, it's maybe gotten better, but maybe not, but maybe on the margins. So it's a really interesting thing that Tatum needs to take the next step with. And as a result, they were able to win the title this year over who did they beat? They beat the Timberwolves, right?
Yeah. No, they beat the Mavericks.
The Mavericks. Oh, yeah. Someone said the Timberwolves to me a couple days ago. I'm like, that's not right. But I didn't look it up in my brain. It was like, yes, it's the Mavericks.
But Kyrie and Luka were really banged up too.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually went back. I was looking at. I'm trying to finish a damn video about the.
Did you know? By the way, did you know Kyrie? Sorry to cut you off. Did you know Kyrie had hand surgery after that?
No, or maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he was playing with an injury.
He just didn't say anything. Yep.
Yeah. Then that tracks based on how he was playing.
Yeah.
No question. He didn't remember. He wasn't. What was it? He wasn't finishing like. Actually, he wasn't. He just wasn't playing like normal.
Right.
So, and I think we probably had even said that during at least a few of those post-game shows, right? There has to be something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and I think we were like, well, or they were playing like amazing defense, but when I went and pulled the footage, it didn't look that way, right? You kept saying that. It's like, these are the same shots he would make way more.
Yeah, I look like the footwork looked good to me. Like the speed looked fine. Yeah, he just wasn't connecting.
And that's not to take away from the Celtics championship, but it does influence how we're going to predict for this year.
Well, what the Celtics did do was they kept knocking on the door over and over and over and over again. And that's something to be, that's worth praise right there, right? Like finally, they got there because they were consistent over the course of time. They kept knocking on the door and things opened up for them and they won a championship. Like that means a lot in itself.
For sure. I mean, it's like, well, the Warriors snuck a championship in there.
They did.
Celtics. Because they weren't really ready, right? And it was like when I was watching KCP against. Interestingly enough, KCP played against the Heat, both finals that he's won. And I got to tell you, watching some of those clips of the Lakers Heat in the bubble, is it still a hot take to say we should put an asterisk around that one?
Yes, that's a hot take to me.
Because I don't know. That Heat team was flawed. And really, like that, the Lakers got a good break on that one.
If we do that, we could say that the whole Eastern Conference was injured this year.
Yeah, I mean, you just like to think though, when you get to the finals, it's like the team is worthy of it. And I'm sorry, but that Heat team didn't feel worthy to me of even being there. And now I got to go back and remember like exactly how they got there, because I know Butler went off.
Playoff Jimmy.
Yeah. And that must have been the end there. But there needed to be, there just needs to be a better team. When you get to that level, I don't know. It's like you need to have a better team. So that one was interesting to me. But it was interesting that both his titles were against the Heat, which might have been a weird, deja vu for him. And then having Drew, you need that kind of player, KCP and Drew. So I'm going to try and wrap that up hopefully in the next couple of days and get that out. So stay tuned. I'm going to finally get some videos out. I don't know. It's been a weird summer. But because I also have to get my video out on the Chase defense. If anybody wants to run that, let me know.
I know I said this last pod, but I'll say it again. I remember when Drew was on the Pelicans, I said he was the most underrated player in the NBA. And since then, he's won 2 championships and 2 gold medals.
Yeah. And I feel bad because I kind of threw him some shade with Philly. But Philly back then during the process was probably really hard to kind of filter exactly what was going on and who. But there's no question the guy does, when you have a secondary ball handler who can create a little bit, he can shoot, and he can play great defense. Like that's what you need to have a guy like that if you want to win a title. I think Drew and KCP are proving that. The one interesting thing was in the middle of those was the Warriors. And, you had Klay, but Klay really wasn't that guy. He's not like a secondary playmaker like you could see Drew and KCP. I mean, I guess sort of a little bit, but but they did have Poole, who filled part of that role, but certainly wasn't going to do anything on defense that way. So I'm a little bit curious. And then the only other explanation would be then they caught the Celtics in a moment in time where they weren't quite ready.
How do you think the new look Dallas Mavericks will play with Klay Thompson? I feel like there's a lot of debate on how he'll fit in. And
I think they got Dinwiddie, right? Again, didn't they re-sign him, or was I reading an old article?
I didn't hear that.
Oh my God, maybe I was reading an old article now because now I don't remember it either. But I saw it just now before I was prepping. Where did he sign? He signed. Forgive me. So he's going back to the Mavericks. So that's another one. And then I think that they added at least one other player. Who am I forgetting? No, I don't know. Someone will tell us in the comments right now for Dallas. But Dallas should be able to reload and be right there. Let's get to our first super chat, though, because it's the best way to get your question answered and on the screen. And Your Highness Charles, thank you so much. I believe that is King Charles now. Are we calling him King? It's weird because,
Your Highness Charles is
died. He was next in line. So King Charles. I think the Celtics make it out of the East again. I'm not as high on the Knicks or Sixers matchups. I think the Celtics can exploit their weaknesses. So, okay, the Sixers signed PG, which is a big one, right?
Yeah.
You put him alongside. They still have Oubre, who's that guy who, if you play him too much, you might have some issues. You're going to put a ceiling on your team. But they did lose Tobias, and I think that's probably a good move to kind of give him a change of scenery too. But I don't know, man. I mean, PG is a phenomenal addition that should fit in really nicely, don't you think?
I really think so. And I've been interested in hearing the way people have been talking about PG-13, like he's automatically going to be the third guy on this team. I mean, I love Tyrese Maxey. I think he's a great player. I think he's getting better and better every year. But I mean, PG-13 is still really, really good. And I think he could be their second guy. And it really all comes down to Joel Embiid's health. And I hope so for him. Like, I've been through my own injuries. I don't want to see any player getting injured, but it's really unfortunate. But I just don't believe in him playing an entire season at a high level with the way his health history has been.
I hear you. But, they have a lot of really good pieces. Hield is there, I believe, still. Let me make sure that's right.
Hield had a really nice final game last year.
Oh, wait, where did Buddy? Did Buddy not? Oh, where did Buddy go then? Huh. I can't remember. Do you remember him signing anywhere?
Mm-mm.
Where's Buddy? Someone can tell us where that is too. But I think that they have some pieces in place that can, as long as you're right, as long as they can get enough time with Embiid during the regular season to develop that.
I mean, they definitely have a chance if Joel Embiid could be 100% Joel Embiid for the whole year. I just don't know the chances of that.
But I think the team that might have a higher chance would be the Knicks, and I really like the way the Knicks.
100%.
They just, losing Hartenstein is the thing that's going to kill them. And that's why they got to trade Randall and get a big man.
They have to
Golden State. That's right. Thank you.
That's a good pickup.
That might have been early in the summer.
I mean, the Knicks did lose iHeart, but They extended OG. They got Mikal Bridges. They signed another contract with Jalen Brunson. And Mikal Bridges with those Nova Knicks, it's just the perfect fit. I mean, continuity and chemistry matter so much.
Yeah.
And when you add another guy who not only could play at an all-star level a lot of the time, but he's the perfect fit in terms of chemistry. He's played with these guys before. I don't see how, if they're all healthy, them not being legit title contenders.
Right. Like Eastern Conference Finals definitely should be in their future. The question is, it's like, okay, are you going to try and squeeze Randall in at center? Maybe. I think
there's a lot of trade rumors.
Yeah. And all of a sudden it was weird. Like he had this $37 million contract, whatever. They can't trade it. And now it's like a really great number they can trade. And you know, if it's for what it's worth, they should have traded him 40 years ago. And you know, who knows how that all would have gotten to us here. But at the very least, I think it would be worth it to find a couple players they could replace with that.
You know, when somebody's about to get traded? When they start saying in media reports, this guy is really excited to play this season.
Okay. Yeah. Is that his camp putting it out there, like making sure other teams do?
Yeah, I mean, it's leverage, right? Like if you know a guy doesn't want to play there, it's easier. You're not going to try and give up as much. Yeah. And on top of that, they would never say that about Jalen Brunson, right? Like we know he's happy there.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to hear reports of Jalen Brunson's excited to play with the Knicks this season.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
Like,
and again, the biggest question there is, so like what they would need to do, like they had Mitchell Robinson, and I just feel like he's probably best like coming off the bench in a way that they need a player that could do what Hartenstein did. Like you need a guy who can catch the ball in the high post, make a nice pass or two. Can do something offensively. Doesn't have to be even scoring necessarily, but just be a little more of a threat on that end. I think that would really unlock what they need to get like all the way to the finals.
Well, Josh Hart could do some of that connective piece stuff. He's just not a center.
Yeah, but right. They need something. They need a big guy that can do that. And I'm not even sure like who that would be. I do know what we had said, Walker Kessler, maybe, or somebody said Walker Kessler. You know, I don't know if he's got that offensive gene.
No,
because again, if you have that, then you're very valuable. No one wants to trade you.
Yeah, not a lot of players are like honestly. Ihart's really good. There's not a lot of players like him. Like who's another player like him?
Yeah, like Bogut was kind of like him. He's like Bogut, right? Like that kind of guy.
He was more. He was more. Oh, Bogut was athletic as a rookie, but he was.
He definitely got hurt and whatever, broken down.
Yeah.
But he could move. But
he also had a better floater than Bogut.
Passing and the nice floaters and such.
There's not a lot of guys like. I mean, Bogut was the first overall pick for a reason. There's not a lot of guys like that.
Right. There's Jokic. Yeah. There's
I mean,
Embiid does it a little bit. Doesn't pass like that, but whatever.
I'm trying to think of another player like Ihart that's not a star. Like, it's interesting.
Maybe some of my comments, but I can't think of anyone right now who's who's at least 6'10". Like Tice is just kind of a standstill shooter guy.
I mean, Joe Angles wasn't a center, but he was 6'10" and he could do all of that.
Yeah,
he wasn't a center though. He's like a guard.
Right. So yeah, it's a tough one. We got
who's going to be good. Jovic. He could do a lot of that connective piece stuff. He's really good.
Yeah, and he's 6'10".
It's like 6'9", 6'10". Yeah, he's good, man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's. I expect him to take another jump. Speaking of getting better and improvement.
Yeah.
So that's all interesting stuff. What else can we talk about before? Let's see. What we were talking about. Brandon.
Yeah. So who's looking to trade for him?
Well, I don't know. I saw an article about like how the Spurs could get him with putting some
I actually like that.
And I get it why they wouldn't. It was like Kelton Johnson, and a protected pick or something.
So they just think Wemby's so good, they're going to win now,
huh? Yeah. I mean, I think that, okay, so here's an interesting question. It's like, he's really young. He seems really centered and grounded in a way that like he could be patient. But at some point, once it creeps into your head, even though he can be patient, quote unquote, it starts to get there and can grow. And then, a year and a half, 2 years later, then he wants out and then you're screwed because you didn't quite do the pieces around the edges. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to kind of make another jump. Isn't there an opportunity kind of here?
100%. It was the same situation last year with the Houston Rockets when they added Dylan Brooks and Fred. And it's what they're doing here with Harrison Barnes and CP3. I think it's a great move and they're going to be good this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the Spurs are an interesting thing, and looking at it this way, like the Warriors are really not in a great space if they want to talk about competing for a title. Neither are the Lakers. So the Nuggets looked very vulnerable as well. So if you're looking at the landscape, you're thinking, gosh, there seems to be an opening here for deep runs in the playoffs. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs want to make this turn this around quicker because it's been a while.
Yeah, I think they make the playoffs this year.
Okay, interesting. So who drops out? I guess let's look at the standings from.
I don't know. I think because Wemby's going to be a top 10 guy, and I think CP3 is the perfect fit, even though he's older.
Yeah,
I think almost his fit with the team will defy the age because Wemby could clean up anything defensively if he can't guard those quicker guards. Think about how many opportunities Wemby missed out on because there was nobody that could get him the ball. Sohan was playing point guard.
Yeah, almost on purpose so they get a higher draft pick. There's not many other explanations because they already had a guy who was doing nicely with him, and they would kind of hold his minutes down in the brother of the guy.
Nembhard?
No. The brother. He's the brother. It's the brother Jones. Tyus Jones' brother. Trey.
Yep.
Thank you. Wow. Now, Ben mentioned Mo Wagner or even Franz Wagner could be one of those role play. Well, Franz obviously not a role player, but one of those big guys who can kind of do two things. I'm not sure. I mean, I know Mo. I got to check his numbers. I haven't looked at it in a while. Mo could shoot in my mind at some point, and
he's not a spacer in the NBA. I don't think.
Let me see. Is he even taking any threes? He takes. I mean, at the height of his career, he was taking 4 a game, and he made 37% with Orlando. Oh, that was 11 games with Orlando after a trade. But he can shoot like in the mid low 30s from 3, which is something for a guy who's big and tough and strong. So that's the only. I don't think it's the passer like that though. I'm talking about the passing. Take a couple dribbles, fake handoff, slip a bounce pass, that kind of thing. That's what Hartenstein could do so well. But Ben also says, as a super chat, thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate it. My Lakers are doomed. I think that they kind of are. Right? They picked up Ronnie. They picked up Connect, who I think actually might be okay.
No, Dalton will be good.
Yeah. But and you have LeBron and AD, and but I know
they got lucky with Connect. To be honest, he should have went earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something. How impactful is he going to be? Brand new coach.
He is older.
Yeah, you have to imagine Rui is finally going to get a much more solidified role here. As I think he probably should. I think there was moments they were figuring some things out, and for whatever reason they just wouldn't stick with it. But let's see who else do they add. Does Chris Wood get another chance to try and, once and for all in his career, do something maybe? So they have some pieces. Gabe Vincent. And let's not forget, when Gabe Vincent went down, I think he was pretty crucial. They needed him to play. And when he wasn't out there giving them some stability, then they were hurting as well. So it's possible that when he's completely healthy, they could be better. But they're going to be competing for the 8th spot.
I mean, they were a play-in team last year, so it's tough.
Yeah. And then if you're thinking that the Spurs are going to jump up into the playoffs, and someone's got to drop down, and you're looking at the play-in, it was the Warriors, Kings, Pelicans, Lakers.
I mean, the Pelicans, if they lose Ingram, they'll probably be in.
Have you seen Zion?
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures of Zion?
He looks like he's in shape. But don't we do this every year with him and other guys? They're like, are they photoshopped? I don't know.
Sort of, but okay, maybe. But this is definitely thinner than we'd seen him, I think, even before. This is like one of those, okay.
I mean, that was so sad when he got hurt against the Lakers because it really felt like a moment.
Oh, I know.
He was flying over LeBron. He was really in his element. He was very into it. Yep. And he just seemed like the best player on the court. And then he got hurt. It was really unfortunate because it felt like, this is Zion's time. It's here.
Yeah.
That was sad.
And they were going to end the Lakers. That was going to be the end of their season. So, it was really unfortunate. But then, if he comes back, he's healthy, they can figure that out. And now maybe that's the thing that's going to finally get him to stay in shape. That could be a good thing. But and then Ingram, Ingram fits or he doesn't fit. He's a complimentary player to some degree, and obviously it's clear to me why there isn't a huge market for him. I mean, the idea that like he can fill the ball up and really score, but he doesn't do too many other things. He does play defense in a way that I think the reputation now is that he's not like the guy who's going to get you over the hedge.
Well, he's not a complimentary player. I think that's the issue sometimes. He's not very malleable. Like, he has to be your go-to guy.
Interesting. I guess I feel like I can see him moving off the ball, coming off screens, a little bit of that, but I hear you. He also likes the ball in his hands, and he's probably most effective, doing the ball, everything with the hands.
He's a bucket. I mean, he is so tough in the mid-range.
Yeah. But I felt this way, like mostly for his whole career. Like there's just something that's not as impactful as it could be. And I don't know. And that's not going to change either. Right.
The Pelicans had their moments though. I mean,
they did.
Yeah.
They really couldn't get healthy altogether. And so we shall see. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen with them, because I think that again, every year it feels like, okay, this is going to be the next year. It's going to be even better than the year before. And everyone's going to continue. And then, things shake out, and then you realize it's similar. But at some point, I do feel like so many teams are going to be so good that you're going to end up having like, the team that wins the West maybe wins 50 games, you know what I mean? And everyone's got 48, 47, 43, whatever. That would be really interesting. And I wonder if that would be what the fans want. It seems like the fans always like to have, some dominant team that's like captures the imagination.
So that's what's happening in the WNBA a little this year, right? The Aces aren't as dominant as they used to be, but the WNBA is thriving.
It is thriving. I think it's like, when you have a patient that's trying to survive, like you have these huge valleys and huge dips, or huge peaks and huge dips. So and slowly that'll even out. Like when Paige Beckers gets in the league, I'm sure she's going to end up being a big draw. And we'll see something like perhaps, like Larry and Magic kind of started it. And then Michael was the fuel on the fire. And I think we're in that moment right now. We're going to see a lot better players. I went to the Sparks game last Sunday. It was kind of fun to watch. Both teams, obviously trying to get the number 1 pick, and of whom the Sparks, congratulations, they did. So they now have the highest odds to get Paige Beckers. And if they could get her, they have a really sweet team going forward next year.
So you think Paige will be a better WNBA player when it's all said and done than Angel and Caitlin?
I've been saying recently that I think it's possible that Paige could be better than Caitlin. Now, what she doesn't do is pull from 30 off the dribble like Caitlin does, which then changes everything else. But she can shoot it, and I think she's more athletic than Caitlin Clark, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before. Just because a player is more athletic than Caitlin Clark doesn't necessarily mean they'll be better. We see this a lot with Steph Curry, right?
Right. But it does give you advantages that like Caitlin Clark does not have. And when we do know that her ball handling and her passing is awesome, right? Paige Beckers can pass as well as Caitlin Clark can. And so, they're starting to get something where, okay, they're getting kind of close like that. And then you have athletic ability that's higher than she could do is more or as much. And so I'm really excited to see that. And I think it'd be great to have her there because, again, like what they built in LA over here with the Sparks is really exciting. I mean, Cameron Brink unfortunately went down with a knee injury, but they also have Rickea Jackson, who is terrific. I mean, I really enjoyed watching her live, and she's just been really 3rd, 4th best rookie this year. And Cameron Brink probably would have been that way too. And so then you throw Paige Beckers on there. I'm convinced she's going to be great right from the start. And then they already have a couple pieces. So, they're in really good shape. And so, and the point being that, yeah, you're right. WNBA is on its way towards, just another infusion of skill that they need. Because, you'll still see I think what's frustrating a little bit is you'll still see like easy bunny shots miss too often. You know what I mean? And nice play, bounce pass, and then poof, they miss the
why do you think that is in the WNBA?
It's probably because elevation, they don't get as high. So defenders who are more ground bound can have a little bit more of an effect that way. But I also think it's training. I mean, if you work on different kinds of touch shots around the basket, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, right? If you have either hand, if you have floaters, if you have ways to deter the defense, Yeah, I mean, like what you would see as an easy dunk every time in the NBA has to be a layup, and then there's a little bit of variability there. But I think that's part of it. I think they don't elevate as high, so it's farther to go.
We have like Kyrie's a ridiculous athlete, but he's not the greatest athlete ever, right? In the NBA. I wonder why we don't see like a WNBA version of Kyrie with just like every single kind of finish you could think of. I wonder who that'll be, or if I don't know. I don't watch the WNBA that much. Maybe there is somebody out there.
Yeah, no, they have a few, and I'm blanking now. There are women who are doing it. I think if we compare percentages, we might see a little bit of a lower percentages overall comparatively. And remember, the ball is smaller and the rim is the same size. So it technically should be a little bit easier to get the ball to go in. You probably would benefit more from threes. I kind of want to think from threes maybe, but only because the closer you get in, the less you're able to get off the ground, then the better the defenders are, because they don't need to get off the ground as high to contest fully. So, but I think it's a training thing. I think the training needs to improve, and once that begins to improve more, then you'll see less of those shots missed, and I think the game will get much better, and then we'll really get into where every game has a ton of players, fans. Right now, it's like, okay, if Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, unfortunately she got hurt, but when they're out there playing, they're filling up the stadiums, right? So they're getting big bumps across the whole thing. But then I know when Paige comes, they'll fill out more. So once that all starts to gain momentum, probably in a year or two, you'll see all these games have 10,000 minimum, people in the stadium. But we have Alan Tran. Thank you so much, Alan. Your best friend of the breakdown. Great to see you. Any opinions on the Ant Edwards quote about 80s, 90s players having no skill outside of MJ? I think the average NBA now is more talented overall, but there are always players that can transcend eras. Well, I'll just say this. Anthony Edwards is nonsense. Ridiculousness. Players in the 80s had lots of skill. And, it might not have been as flashy. They might not have been as creative with ball handling because they simply just didn't think about it. But certainly the skill level was very high in the 80s and the 90s.
So I've been talking about this a lot lately, and I disagree with Anthony Edwards' quote. But I would also say I think he's looking at his contemporaries, and then he watches the games of the 80s and 90s, and he thinks that the players he's playing against are more skillful than the players of the 80s and 90s, and that's not necessarily false. But to say Michael Jordan was the only skillful player is crazy.
Crazy. And, it's part of it is the coaching. There was a certain, tolerance for –
remember Mark Price?
What's that?
Remember Mark Price? That guy was super.
Yeah,
skilled.
Mark Price could do anything with the ball, and he can shoot anyway with the ball, off the dribble, off the catch and shoot whatever you want. I mean, that's not even the, my goodness. And someone that already responded with some edits where and then you forget about certain players who are really good and really skilled. Kevin Johnson, is another one of those guys who's awesome and fast.
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Yeah, he was great. Skill level. Listen, even Bird and Magic, it's okay, those guys were as skilled as anybody now. Now, did Magic do Sham Gods? No, because it hadn't been invented yet. It's just, could he have? Yeah, and he would have if they had been invented. So, is it his fault they didn't quite come up with every version of dribbling? No. So I think it's silly. Now, what's frustrating to watch the 80s is the style of play. And that might be what he's tapping into most of all in terms of lighting up the coaches. They didn't have the kind of creativity and just understanding of how the game should work, really. Mm. So when you watch the 80s stuff, it's not easy, man. I mean, it's it's 10 guys all near the lane, right? And they're all trying to set multiple pin downs and curls. And it's there's no space in the paint. No one's out on the 3-point line. It's just confounding that way that they wouldn't have figured it out after the 3-point line was installed, that there was a much more efficient way to play that would open it up and make it more exciting. So it's crazy that way.
Yeah, crazy. No, it's untrue. It's untrue.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to go in a minute or two because I got to record my political podcast, believe it or not.
Very cool.
There's plenty of things going on over on that side, by the way, much in the exact opposite of what's happening right now in the NBA. I mean, when are we even going to light anything up? It's going to be a month until things are interesting, I think, right?
Yeah, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
And no one makes a good point about the coaches that they wouldn't let Curry shoot those threes. Yeah. I got yanked taking an off the dribble three in transition in my senior year of high school, and I was a 50% 3-point shooter. But they're all catch and shoot, and they're all open because you were not allowed to take anything that was not open. Dribble.
It also was conventional wisdom that we have to swing the ball 3 times and we can't shoot it right away. But oftentimes, as we know now in the modern NBA, that the quicker shot might be the best look you get. You never know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to train. I'm working with a high school team right now, and I'm trying to help them understand that. And the other thing I'm also helping them understand, which is interesting, is that sometimes they're not optimal. They're not good because they're playing at 110%. And they're so tense and they're so tight and they're so over fast and they're losing their balance. And it's like, you have to actually chill. I need you to play at 85% and let me help you make your 85% faster, So It's an interesting thing but back in the day, we didn't coach that way. We coached every second of every time you're out there, whatever, no matter what, it's got to be 110% as hard as you possibly can everywhere. And it does get in the way of your balance and your processing speed and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I was playing pickup the other day, and the dude was going 100 miles an hour at the rim and then called foul. I told him, you're out of control, man. I mean, come on. Yeah. You call foul in that situation.
I mean, I can remember the guy, and you know who you are, Josh, out there, who would, he would jump into you. And
yeah.
And it was
like, where'd you play with Josh?
Well, that would have been pickup here in LA, but he also went to the same college I went to. So in those pickup games, he would do it too. And so you wanted to play with him. It was horrible.
Was your life like Woody and Wesley?
Woody and Wesley. Woody from Toy Story. Who's Woody? It was Woody and Wesley.
White Men Can't Jump.
Oh, Wesley Snipes. Yes. Well, you should use their character names.
What was Sidney Dean and?
I don't know. It wouldn't have helped me either.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have.
That's what I'm
Sidney,
saying.
Right? Was Wesley Snipes, right?
Yeah. I don't know what was Woody's name.
Oh, wow.
Billy Hoyle.
Billy Hoyle. That sounds right. All right. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. So anyhow, so that's interesting stuff. But anyway, I got to run over to do that. But great show, Combo, as always. Anything else you want to say?
Nope. Great show.
We'll be back,
man. Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back next Monday, probably.
Yeah, I think September is pretty good for me. I'm not going anywhere until I think October. I think so. I think I should be good.
And we might have something going on then. So stay tuned, folks.
Right, in person. On by the way, on the politics side too. Actually, it's going to be an interesting confluence of politics and basketball.
Are you doing something in person in Oh, you're right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking. I know what you're doing. I was connected to the pod though.
Right.
This is something different.
So if you're just get you hyped a little bit, like something might be happening where I get on the court with somebody who well, if you pay attention to politics, you definitely recognize who they are. And that's all I can say for right now. But it'll happen once I get it locked down. I'll let everyone know.
And that should be on the B-ball breakdown side of things, right?
Yes, it will be. But I can share it all over the place, and we'll see. But it's going to be basketball focused. But we'll be able to figure out how the modern version of basketball compares to policy. And
can I give you a quick political question?
Sure.
About your pod? Would you have anybody from any side invited on your podcast?
Yeah, I think so. We do have a little bit of a bar. Like you got to have, you got to bring something to the table. But no,
like if you're in office somewhere at some capacity.
Oh yeah. If we have okay. Will we have a Republican on the show? Yes. Would they want to come on the show is another interesting question. But we reserve we criticize equally both sides without question. When we have the opportunity.
So do you think you land somewhere in the middle, even though you're?
No, leaning? I do not land in the middle. Well, I'll tell you. Okay, you really want to do this? We'll do this real quick.
No. We should do this here. You should have me on the political podcast.
Well, I answer that question generally with, I'll tell you how I feel on some of these important issues, and then you can figure out where I am. But I don't think it's in the middle.
Okay. All
right. And again, the middle has moved so far to the right now that it's embarrassing.
But I feel like the right would say the opposite. No.
They're trying to scare everybody and whatever, but it's always everyone tacks to the middle, like Kamala's attacking them back to the middle to try and get more votes, whatever. I'm telling you, that middle is not moving to the left anymore. It's definitely moving toward the right. And it's whether or not it's because, the way our, the states are gerrymandered and the way the Electoral College has an effect where the minority can rule and they're very loud. But I mean, look at some of the things like, Roe v. Wade was repealed, like that kind of tells you something that the law of the land now does not protect the woman's right to choose. Like that means that the country has moved to the right, and by the way, the horrible thing is just that all these Republican politicians are now moving back to the left saying, well, 6 weeks isn't long enough. That's what Trump just said. So we need to have more than 6 weeks, before we have a ban. And now we're going to get right back to what Roe v. Wade protected, which was, and in the interim, people have gotten sick and almost died and all sorts of things because they didn't have it in place. So anyway, I think it does feel to me like it's moved to the right.
Okay, I warmed you up for your next pod.
Thank you. I'm warm. I'm raring to go. But if you want to check the podcast out, you can check that out. It's called the Muckrake Podcast, the Muckrake Political Podcast, with me and my co-host Jared Yates Sexton. And otherwise, let's tell the people where they can listen to your podcast.
Combo's Court, wherever you listen to podcasts. COMBOSCOURT, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And you can find me on Instagram at 12combo. That's ONETWOCOMBO. You might even see Coach Nick's face on my Instagram page.
Your Instagram might be the best thing you make, I think.
Thanks, man.
I think that might be that you should send them there, get them, get their toes in the water, go to the Instagram page for Combo and check it out.
Well, I also do have over 600 pods on the audio side, so I do pretty good there as well.
Yeah, you do. And you also you dice them up and you get them up there on the Instagram too. So that's my favorite place to go. But all right, well, thanks so much, Combo, for being here. I guess we'll do it again next Monday. And
sounds good.
Else, thank you all for being here. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Yes, sir.